What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Draft Report. In today's video, we'll be doing my first mock draft of draft season, and I know I'm a little late to the mock draft trend and everything. I've made some, just haven't posted them, but this is truly when mock drafts become legit. We've had the combine, free agencies pass, so we kind of know teams' needs for the most part, and pro days are really starting to ramp up, so we're getting a really good feel for how these prospects are looking. But without further ado, let's get into the mock draft. So the first pick, obviously, was the Bears, and then they traded to the Panthers for DJ Moore, their first this year, first next year, and I believe the second this year. So with the Panthers' first pick, they're obviously going quarterback, and it's a matter of which one of the four they take. And I think you can rule out Levis because they wouldn't jump all the way to one and take Will Levis. Um, Bryce Young might be the most talented, but Frank Reich has not coached a quarterback under 6'2", and I don't think that is changing this year. So that narrows it down to C.J. Stroud and Anthony Richardson, and I could really see him going both ways. You know, it was kind of weird timing to trade up right after the combine, and that could definitely be because of Anthony Richardson, but Stroud also impressed at the combine. So, in my opinion, the number one quarterback in this class will go number one overall. C.J. Stroud is a Carolina Panther. And then number two, seen this basically everywhere. I think the Texans are going to go with just the safest, pretty much the safest pick here, and go Bryce Young. They just need someone to elevate that offense, and Bryce Young can definitely do that right away. And then number three is where it actually starts to get a little interesting because the Cardinals are obviously not in the need of quarterback, so they could easily trade out of this pick, but the trades are going to be interesting because I think 5 through 7 here could all need a quarterback, but I don't think they're going to really want to trade up and give value when they could have one drop to them. And then the Colts, I could see getting in a bidding war with someone and then eventually trading up. I could see the Falcons doing it, but I think they're going to stick with Ritter. And then the teams I could potentially see jumping way up. Washington and Tampa Bay are in desperate need of quarterbacks, and I could see them giving up a haul to get to 3 and taking Richardson, but I just don't think it's going to happen. They'd have to give up so much, and I just don't know if it's worth it. So at 3, I am going to have the Cardinals stay there, actually, and take Will Anderson, who in my opinion is the second best player in this class. I do have Jalen Carter ahead of him, but I think the Cardinals will go with the safer pick, the guy who doesn't have off-field issues. Will Anderson is basically guaranteed to just be a stud day one. Jalen Carter, maybe a lower floor, but definitely a higher ceiling. So I can see the argument both ways. I would take Carter, but I can't blame them for taking Anderson. That's what I think they will do. And then at number 4, the Colts are obviously going to go quarterback, and I believe they will go Richardson. Younger, has better tools. The arm of Levis is better, but I just think Richardson brings more to the table, and Shane Steichen would love to develop a guy like Richardson who is kind of like Jalen Hurts in a way. And then number 5, the Seattle Seahawks, they do go with the best player in this class, in my opinion, in Jalen Carter. Just so rare what he brings as a defensive tackle. Can move all across the line, was effective everywhere, good against the run, a great pass rusher, just does everything on the field. Obviously, off the field, has gotten into some trouble, so that's why he slips from a potential number 1 pick to the Bears to potentially 5, maybe even 6, 7 range. But I have him going 5, so not too much of a fall. And then the Lions at 6, they kind of miss out on the defensive players, so I think they do go quarterback. And the one of the main 4 left is Will Levis. And I like the idea of Levis to Detroit because, he can sit behind Goff, who is kind of similar, their like play style and everything. Sit behind him for a year. Goff is done, and then Will Levis comes in. I think he'd be 25 at that point. The problem I have with him in Seattle or another place like Oak or Las Vegas would be by the time that bridge quarterback is done with that contract, Levis would be like 28. But with Detroit, he could get a year to sit and still be pretty relatively young when he does come in to start. So Levis to Detroit makes sense to me. And then number 7, the Raiders miss out on all 4 quarterbacks and the top 2 defensive line prospects. So I think they just go best player available, which in my opinion is Christian Gonzalez. Just has everything you want in a corner. There's basically no flaws. So fluid, has long arms, has the body type that you'd want in a corner. His hips, his speed, everything. He's just going to be a true shutdown corner, I think, from day one. And I could definitely see him being like a Pat Surtain and just coming in day one, being an all pro year 1 or 2. And the Raiders definitely could use some help in their secondary. And then number 8, the Falcons, they have a lot of needs, and one of those is edge rusher, and they get Tyree Wilson, who I believe is a top 5 talent, could easily go in the top 5 this year, and they get him at 8, which I think is a steal. Wilson is just massive, 6'6", 280, super long arms, just plays with great strength, just a mauler in the run game, just dominates everything. Still needs some work as a pass rusher, but with those tools, he could definitely be a great pass rusher in the league. So I like that Tyree Wilson pick at 8. And then 9 is kind of interesting because the Bears have so many needs, and they were willing to trade down to 9 from 1. And I think that just kind of proves they'll probably just go with talent. This would not be my pick. I have Myles Murphy a little lower than a lot of people do, but I think he goes 9 here. The Bears don't, I mean, they could use an offensive lineman for sure, but if you can truly get a star pass rusher, which Murphy could definitely become, I like the idea of it. I would probably go with either one of the corners or an offensive tackle, but I think Murphy will be the way they go and get an edge for the future. And then the Eagles, this is a very interesting one because they obviously are fresh off an NFC Championship win. They don't really have many holes as a team, basically none as a matter of fact, but they have the 10th pick from the Saints from last year's draft, and I think they just go with kind of a luxury pick and just build for the future, and I think that will be with Paris Johnson Jr. I heard on a podcast from Theo Ash of Stay Hot. He was talking about how Paris Johnson might go to the Eagles, and it kind of opened my eyes to the idea of Johnson maybe sitting or sliding to guard for a year until Lane Johnson does end up retiring, which will probably be in the next couple years, and then Johnson can truly slide to his left tackle position, which you're drafting him for. But I do believe Johnson needs some time to develop, and no better place than Philadelphia to do that. They have great coaching over there and basically have always had a good O-line. So then we move to the 11th pick, which is the Tennessee Titans. They could go a lot of places here, but I think they will go with, in my opinion, the best player available, Joey Porter Jr., and they have definitely a need at corner. They didn't really have any positive secondary players outside of Kevin Byard, and he actually might be gone. So adding a guy like Porter Jr. in the secondary will just open the game for them. They can run press man with him. They can put him in zone. He's not the most fluid with his hips downfield, but he's so dominant off the line with that insane wingspan. I love Joey Porter as a player. His length, his speed, just everything he brings is fun to watch. So at number 12, we have the Texans, who obviously took Bryce Young earlier in the draft. So I think they give Bryce Young someone to throw to after the Brandon Cooks trade. And in my opinion, the best wide receiver available, Jackson Smith and Jigba. Is he the fastest guy? No. Is he the best athlete? No. But he just has a knack for getting open, and guys like that just work out. Is Travis Kelce the fastest tight end? No, but he just is so smart, and Smith and Jigma just finds a way to get open. You aren't the number one receiver with Garrett Wilson and Olave on the team without being a good player, and I think that just proves how good Smith and Jigba is. And I'm willing to bet on the stats and stuff more than just. I mean, his speed. He's not that slow. I think he gets taken he's fast still. But he just doesn't have that, take the top off the defense speed, which I think is fine. Give Bryce Young a consistent threat to throw to, because right now they have nobody. So we move to 13, which is the Jets, and I actually have a trade here with the Green Bay Packers. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers is on the move. It's just a matter of the package, and I believe it will involve this pick. We'll just say for a 7th, it will obviously be Aaron Rodgers and a bunch of other stuff. But, trade declined. Okay. Let me just get this pick to the Packers real quick. So, 13th. Obviously, this wouldn't be the package in real life, but I just need to get that pick to the Packers. So I do have the Packers taking one of my favorite prospects in Nolan Smith. Um, I don't know why. Um, okay, there we go. So I do have the Packers taking a guy I really like in Nolan Smith. They took two Georgia defenders in the draft last year, and I think that trend will continue. Just so freaky. I mean, you're in a 4.39 in the 40 as an edge rusher. I know he's small, but I just think him in that Packers system. I can see him in that uniform already. He just seems like a Packer, and I really am excited to see how he will perform. So we move to the Patriots, which is kind of a weird team. They have needs, but I don't know. Their needs aren't super clear, but I think they go Peter Skronsky. They can definitely beef up that O line. Skronsky can move to tackle to guard. Michael Onwenu is the same way, can move tackle to guard, and I think just having versatile guys that can move all over the line will help. And adding some more protection for Mac Jones or Bailey Zappi, whoever it is, they need all the help they can get. And then the Packers have another pick at 15 here, and I think this is where they give Jordan Love some help, and I believe they will take Jordan Addison. Again, kind of like Smith and Jigma, not the fastest dude, but he just has a knack for getting open, a smooth route runner, has solid hands. Just Jordan Love needs someone to throw to. Lazard is gone. I mean, really, their number one receiver right now, it would be Christian Watson, who was solid last year, but you can improve on that position. You can always have multiple receivers, so I think Jordan Addison would be a good fit here. And then at 16 with the Commanders, this guy's fallen a little bit. He's in my top 10 on my big board. This is Devon Witherspoon. This corner class is really good. The fact Witherspoon is the third corner off the board is crazy, but just doesn't provide the hips of Gonzalez or the length of Porter. Just kind of a middle ground between the two. He's very thin, but he has length. And he just flies around the field. He's fun to watch. He plays with such aggression in the run game. And for a small dude, he actually is pretty good in press. I think he only allowed 1 yard in press all year. So I really like Witherspoon. Getting him at 16 is a big steal to me. And then at 17, the Steelers really have one major need, and that is offensive line. And they shore that up with Broderick Jones from Georgia. Just a solid left tackle. I think he's the best plug-and-play guy right now. Well, actually, that's not true. Skronsky probably is, but Broderick Jones brings a lot in the run game and pass protection. I really like him as a tackle, and the Steelers have a major need at tackle. And then 18, the Lions. They did just sign Chauncey Gardner-Johnson for 1 year, who is very similar to this player in Brian Branch, kind of a slot corner, safety mold. And I think you have both of them together. You can't have too many of guys like that, that can play all over the field and just do everything. I really like Brian Branch. Amazing in the run game. I think he was like 5th in the SEC in tackles as a corner slash safety. Can cover, can play in the box a little bit, just super versatile, and I like what he brings, and giving him to Dan Campbell would be a good fit. So then we move to the Buccaneers, who I don't really know their direction as a team right now. Baker Mayfield is going to be their starting quarterback, so he needs all the help he can get, and they need interior offensive line, so I think they go O'Cyrus Torrence from Florida. The best guard in this class by a mile, and the Buccaneers definitely need interior line. So we move on to the Seahawks with their second pick in this draft. They took Jalen Carter earlier, and I think they stick with the defensive side of the ball. They need edge rushers like no one else does, so I think they take Lucas Van Ness, who is falling majorly. I've seen a lot of mocks with him in the top 10. To get him at 20 and Jalen Carter at 5, I would be super happy as a Seahawks fan if that turns out. Lucas Van Ness was actually not a starter for Iowa, but The tape looks good. He's super strong. He has some decent moves in his bag. Definitely needs to develop more. Good in run defense. Can play all over the line. And him and Jalen Carter together would be a good combo. And then the Chargers here, Austin Eckler seems like he's on the way out, and you get a probably top 5 talent in this draft class in Bijan Robinson at 21. Is running back this valuable? That's up to you to decide, but Bijan is probably the greatest running back prospect since Saquon. Um, Brings speed, brings power, can catch the ball a little bit, good vision, just everything you want. And the Chargers need to have a way to just win games with the run game. I mean, Herbert can't do everything, and Bijan should help him out on that front, especially if Eckler's gone. And then at 22, we have the Ravens. Still not sure if Lamar is going to be their quarterback, but I'm going to assume he is. And with that, they need receiver help. Their receivers are atrocious right now. So I think they go Zay Flowers. A smaller guy, but he has speed. He's a good route runner. And just a consistent target for Lamar to throw to. And then at 23, the Vikings, they have a major need, and that is corner. And I think they go with Deonte Banks, just a smooth corner, impressed at the combine. Flew up draft boards, and I like the fit with him at 23. And then back-to-back corners here with the Jaguars. I think they go Khalil Ringo. Was a top 5 projected pick going into the year and kind of struggled this year at Georgia, but to be that big and be able to move that fast, I think he's like 6'2", 215 and runs in the 4.3s. I mean, he's just freaky. Or his hips are a little slow, and he got burned a couple times this year, but I'm going to bet on, I mean, you just don't see guys that big that move that fast at corner too often. And then 25 with the Giants, they're definitely going with a offensive weapon for Daniel Jones. And I was torn between a receiver or a tight end, and I think they actually go tight end. Yes, their receivers are weak, but Michael Mayer can just be a super consistent target for Daniel Jones to throw to. Again, not the fastest guy, but just knows how to get open and just is such a consistent target that Daniel Jones will be able to hit and move down the field with. And then at 26, we have the Cowboys. I could see them going a lot of different ways here, but I do have them taking Brian Bresee, however you pronounce it. A big defensive tackle from Clemson, has kind of struggled the last couple years after being a top recruit, but he's just, again, a freaky dude, kind of like Ringo, huge and moves super fast, and I think the Cowboys would take a chance on him and pair him with DeMarcus Lawrence and Micah Parsons off the edge. That'd be a scary pass rush. And then the Buffalo Bills here, what do they really need? They could use maybe a pass rusher, but I have them taking Anton Harrison from Oklahoma, just a solid pass protector. They can use tackle help. They're kind of a tough team to protect. I could definitely see them getting Bijan if he were to fall, but you know, Anton Harrison would be a good pick there, shore up that offensive line. And then at 28, the Bengals, they need offensive line as well. I believe they would go with DeJuan Jones. And this would be a very interesting one because you have DeJuan Jones and Orlando Brown as your tackles who are very similar. They're both massive human beings that just, they're both like 6'8", 360. I mean, it would be kind of funny to just see that much mass on each side of Joe Burrow. I mean, but DeJuan Jones is a right tackle at Ohio State, and I think should probably play right tackle in the league. And to pair him and then left side Orlando Brown, that shores up that tackle position that was killing the Bengals the last couple years. So we move to 29, which is the Saints, and I have them taking edge out of Georgia Tech, Keon White. Another guy kind of in the build of a Bresee, just huge, fast, a guy that big should not move that well. He is an older prospect. I believe he's like 24 or something, 23, and he needs development. He is raw as a pass rusher. So I don't love the idea of having a super raw talent coming in at that old of an age, but you got to bet on traits sometimes, and that is what Keon White has. And the Eagles, with their second pick in this draft, they took Paris Johnson Jr. earlier. And again, another luxury pick. They will take Julius Brents out of Kansas State. Another corner flew up draft boards in the Senior Bowl and in the Combine. Just moves well and is a very fluid corner. And I think the Eagles, they obviously have Slay and Bradbury. Having Brent sit for a year and obviously can come in certain schemes, but, you know, after Slay is done next year, this year, um, Brents can slide right in. And then the last pick of the first round, Kansas City Chiefs will take a receiver after losing Juju. I think it will be Quentin Johnston. So that will wrap up the mock draft. I'll obviously be making some more of these, but this is just the first one, kind of post free agency mock draft. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.